Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, I am so excited about my guest today. She has traveled to over 60 countries and lived in 4 of them, including USA, France, Russia, and Greece, all amazing places. She spends several months abroad each year connecting with locals and gathering insider information to help other curious travelers take more meaningful trips. And I love this part that about her. She's got so many great things. She says, my family encouraged me to stay small, and to stay out of the way. And please, for the love of God, don't talk to strangers. I think we've all been there. But I'm bad at not following directions, and I have a curiosity streak a mile wide. When I got my wings, I started seeing all things, amazing things. I'm so excited to chat with her today. But before we bring her on, I do want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt, you're going to want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give a quick shout out to our friend Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Production. If you are in need of turnkey special event production, Clow is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, go to upbeatmediapro.com. All right, I've said that so many times, Juliana, so many times that I got it down.
Yeah.
Got it rolling. All right. So my guest, Juliana Dever, is a professional actor. And I love this word, experiential travel expert. I like it. And cultural tour curator. In the last 25 years, she's traveled all over the world. Her award-winning travel blog, cleverdeverwherever.com, helps readers find unusual experiences in unexpected places. It was named Best Independent Travel Blog in North America by the North American Travel Journalists Association. And Juliana has been featured on Fox's Good Day LA and Smithsonian.com. Here's the other cool part. As an actor, she's best known for her role as Jenny Ryan on the globally popular show Castle and as Rachel Hawkerson on 911. So, Juliana, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
This is so much fun.
Yeah.
So I was looking over all of your stuff, and it's so crazy because I always talk about, on this show, how our journeys are just not really linear in life. We just kind of have all these things that we go all over the place. But when you start connecting the dots, you see these little places where they sort of intersect, they one thing leads to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And so you have such a just fun, incredible journey. I just love it. It's fun.
Yeah, there is a lot of fun journey in all of that. And I do love what you're saying. I don't know where we got the idea that life was linear, maybe because it feels somewhat chronological, but it's never is. But the cool thing is when you, all these little, from here to here to here, and then all of a sudden you realize, no, that was here. It's so fun connecting those dots. And it's so exciting. The things that you wind up doing that come back later that you just didn't even expect. It's a little surprise, little gifts. It makes it even more fun, I think.
Yeah, you just gave me chills when you said that too, because it is. It's so, I told this story on a show recently that, and I want to talk about you. I want to tell this story because it's so funny. I was in Mary Kay for a really long time. Mary Kay Cosmetics, 22 years in that company, and thought I was going to live and die by that company. I loved what it was all about, the women empowerment and all of that. But it was so interesting because all the time I was in there, I heard about Zig Ziglar, all the time, Zig Ziglar, because Mary Kay and Zig Ziglar worked together, and a lot of his work was from Mary Kay. And so interestingly enough, I don't know, about 6 months ago when I was out networking, I met this guy who actually was kind of like Zig Ziglar's right-hand man. He traveled all over the world with him, spoke on stage with him. And then I went to go speak at an event, and the person that organized the event partnered me up with this guy to speak on stage. And it was so surreal because all these years I had heard about Zig Ziglar, and then I go and I get to go on stage with this guy who's traveled all over the world, spoken on all these great stages, right? And worked right with him. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. When things like that, these nonlinear things that happen and all these great experiences you have. And if you asked yourself 20 years ago, would you be doing that? You go, no, I would have never thought that.
But but if you are true to, because we all know, I think sometimes we're like, that can't be right. Like for me, to illustrate the point, I was born and raised in a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. And like from the time I kind of had like cognitive ability, I thought like, and I'm talking like little tiny kid, I'm like, I'm an actor, I'm a world traveler. Like I knew it. But you would say that to people in an area that maybe they felt all these little things, but they didn't listen to it, or they thought it's not for me. And so they tell you that, and they program you when you're small and you don't know any better, and you're listening to the adults in your life, and you're like, that's right. That's not for me. That's for someone else. And so it really is that part of, is this crazy? Do I listen to it? And so, yeah, it's absolutely all these things that start happening. If you allow it, if you do some of the hard stuff, if you keep believing, it all prepares you for the next step. And the next step might be tomorrow, and the next step might be 20 years from now.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And it just reminded me too, because I had a girl that came on that, I always bring her up. She came on way back when I launched my first show right before the pandemic. And I remember her saying how your strengths always they somehow always find you, And so like the very first question I was going to ask you is, did you know, like as a child, that you were going to be doing these things? And you kind of just answered that yourself. And so I think, yeah, I think there's a small part of us, like even when I look at my stuff and I go back to as a child, like, I always tell this story that I went through this really shy period of time. And I think that again goes back to, because we're listening to those other people tell us, you can't do those things because that's crazy stuff to be doing. No, why would you do that? Right. And so, I went through this period of time where I was shy, and I took public speaking in college, and I was like, I am never going to be talking in front of people. Like that is not going to happen. I can't do it. But as a child, I was the kid that was always like trying to organize those kinds of things. Like we're going to put skits together, and we're going to do things and build things and like speak about it and train. See what I'm talking about? It's like, like you just said, all those little things, they kind of start surfacing back out.
They surface when you're little, when you're playing. Like if you still aren't sure, like go back to what you used to, how did you play? Like even if you were building things, what did you build? What was that world? Was it a fantasy world? Was it a traveling world? Was it an analytical world? Like the clues are always there, like just, you have to be kind of brave and follow them and not listen to everyone who tells you you can't do it.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, I want to open this up. We kind of just did a great conversation right there. That if we did nothing else, that's it, right? It's always done.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Every time I do these shows, we always have this part where it's like this conversation. I'm like, that's it. That's all we needed for the whole show, right? But we want to talk about you because you're doing awesome things. I want to talk about what you're doing right now. That's traveling. All this is going on. Tell us a little bit about this.
So yeah, like I was saying, it's something that it's always been part of who I am. And I finally got out into the world, and I have to say, yeah, of course it's scary, but it's who I am. And so I'm always out there traveling. It's been probably one of the most rewarding steps that I've ever taken. It's transformed my life. I fully believe that travel is absolutely transformative. And even if you are able to do it once in a while or go to the next town over, getting into a different headspace is absolutely going to change how you relate to things when you come back home. And for me, I realize that some of the biggest rewards in traveling are sometimes the things that seem scary. So I really felt like I could really serve people by taking away some of that fear, taking away some of the obstacles in terms of mindset that keep people maybe dreaming, but not getting out there and going to a country that maybe seems less familiar. Maybe things seem daunting or there's so much planning. So I started travel writing. I really started because I way back in the day, I worked for Trans World Airlines, TWA, and because that was out of St. Louis. And I realized that this was something that I like. You can't stop if you truly have the travel bug. And you know what part of it is? I know people say, they get bitten by the travel bug. But one thing that I also find is that because traveling, it's a privilege. And I think you should always see it as a privilege. You should never feel entitled to just show up in someone else's town, country, and think that everyone just owes you something because you showed up.
Right.
It should always be a privilege. But having said that, it's hard. It's tough. You're out of your routine. You're out of your foods that you eat. You're out of like your home where your things are. Maybe you're not seeing your dogs, or so we have to acknowledge that. But those things that have somehow been the hardest have been just massively rewarding. And I want to help everyone have those life-changing experiences. So it started, first I was just traveling. Then I started writing about it and started my blog in 2015. And then I went to a couple of countries that I knew people wouldn't probably go to, and also the countries themselves, like the Republic of Georgia, which is in the Caucasus. For anyone who's not looking at a map right now, it's above Turkey. And it's right below Russia. It's an Eastern Europe, kind of also Asia area. And that is not, they haven't been open to tourism that long. They don't have roads and subways and things that make anyone just showing up make it easy. But that country for me was one of the most magical places that I'd ever visited. And I thought to myself, if I could share this experience and have, people come along with me and meet the friends that I've made and really have a local experience, a cultural immersion experience where you're not seeing it as an observer, but you're in it. You're experiencing it. You're exchanging. You're learning from people that live there. Like, how can I be that conduit? And so in 2018, it was a crazy idea, and I didn't think about it. And that's probably what was good. I didn't think about it. I just did it. And I created a tour to the country of Georgia that went in 2019. It sold out in an hour. And it was really, what if? And once I did it, it was honestly so much better than I could have even anticipated. And it just made me realize I need to do more of this. Like, everyone on the tour was they had so much fun. Then I was like, this has got to be something. And so I kind of took that ball and ran with it, like, right into a pandemic. So that didn't help. But it's not something I still keep doing it. And I've expanded it to Poland. I've expanded it to the country of Slovenia. I even started a Christmas market tour this year, but again, on a cultural immersion level. So I think I answered 10 questions. Maybe some of you haven't.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's good. Hey, this is how this always is. That's why I let y'all just go. Cause I know, but you were actually giving me chills. Like, I'm like, this is so awesome because, immersions are so important. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this program that I'm building out, and I was trying to explain it. It's so hard to explain things to people. I'm like, all I can say to you is that you're going to go through an immersion. It's like a transformation. It's like, I'm going to take you from here to here. And when you walk away, hopefully I've changed you. Right. But I'm listening to you and I'm like, I love this. I think this is so big because I feel like as Americans, we are so like grounded in our culture, right? And it's so hard for us to want to go outside. And I have so many friends that are from abroad, from like Russia. And like, I have a friend from Iran and different places of the world. And they are so worldly. They travel all over, they speak multiple languages, and we get so stuck like in our little bubble, so to speak. So I admire you, one, for the willingness to do that, because I know that had to be scary to do that. But at the same time, like, what unique experiences you're creating for yourself and for the people that are following you and seeing that. So I just want to say kudos to you. I think it's awesome.
Well, yeah, thank you. I really, part of it is first what I want to say about the United States, because I agree. And people on the outside, and even some of us within, we tend to get a bad rap that we don't travel enough, or only 37% of Americans have passports. But I would also say to detractors that, listen, we have a really large, geographically speaking, we have a very large country, and we are not that close to other cultures. It's not, in Europe, on my Christmas market tour, we go to 4 different countries in 9 days, and it's not it's not taxing because it's right there. It's a half
Right.
hour drive. You know, we drive like an hour to work every day and we don't think about it. You drive in Europe and you might have just gone through 2 countries.
Yeah, you're going to
So
have to
in
drive
Europe-
all day to get across Texas.
Exactly. I know. I did a road trip across Texas last year. It took me like 4 days.
Yeah.
I would have been through 15 countries if I was in
Right,
Europe.
right.
But you know, the truth is, because our experience is really this large country that is somewhat isolated and very expensive to get out to the next culture. We don't grow up, we are not conditioned to think about,
Right.
oh, we should have to speak a couple other languages. When you get to Europe, you know, everybody speaks, not obviously not everybody, but you know what I mean? Like most people speak a minimum of 2 because they speak their own, and then they speak English. They can communicate with the people on their continent. And then maybe they also speak 2 or 3 of the neighboring countries because that's their frame of reference.
Right.
So I just want to say, Americans, I get us.
Yeah.
And we are good people. And
Right.
what we need to think about, however, is how to expand ourselves to be citizens of the world, because the world's not going away. We can't hide our heads and pretend the world isn't out there. And we also can't pretend we're not connected. And what we do doesn't affect someone else. And we always do better when we take care of one another. So learning about other people, learning about other cultures actually fills you up. It actually makes you happier. It actually opens your mind and you think, I didn't even know we could do that with our garbage or our electricity, or you know, you get all, and then you're popping. The ideas are popping. You start thinking of different creative ways to go about even how you run your own business or how you set up your day. So that there's only benefits from spending time with one another. Yeah. So
I think you touched on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What? No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you were touching all the stuff I love to talk about, how we're all connected. And, you know, I think so. You're so right about that, because it's like if you look, I always talk about like this whole systems thinking and this just larger macro picture of how everything we do affects everybody in some way indirectly. Right. And so I think you were just touching on all the touchy feely stuff that I like to talk about. So
excellent. That's why we're here together today.
That's right. That's right. I love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's awesome. So you've got this blog, and this is where you're really kind of documenting all this. I know you've got a YouTube page that you're doing stuff on there as well. Am I correct?
You are correct, but I will maybe track. Suddenly, what are words? I would actually say that where I spend a majority of the time at this point is in my Facebook group.
Gotcha.
And so come along. It's just Clever Dever wherever. And the community there is amazing. It's largely women. In fact, my tours, we actually have our first man. Of all the tours I've ever done, it's been 100% women from all age groups. The similarity is more the curiosity for the world, which really reflects back the curiosity that we have for life and for ourselves. Yeah. And so it's more like the curiosity, the adventurous nature. Those are the women that I tend to attract. It's almost usually all solo travelers. And my tours also have a female first focus. So meaning when we go into other countries, when I create the tour, I am on the ground, probably at minimum 2,000 miles of driving across countries, knocking. Actually, in Poland, we at one point found someone on Google Earth and knocked on their door and said, would you be open to having women over next year for a luncheon? You know, so we really get off the beaten path. We really support female-owned businesses, and we talk about it a lot in my Facebook group. I haven't been writing about it as much because the writing is sometimes quite isolating. I'm just sitting in my office and writing, and you know, you're like, is this thing on? Did anyone read this? And
right.
You know, and in terms of the YouTube channel, I seasonally do a weekly show with my group. So I will touch on topics each week in the travel realm that help enrich other people's travels, other people's lives, those burning questions about like, how do I decide where I want to go? How do I pick a destination I love? When do I know, how do I know when to bail? How do I pick a good travel companion? How do I plan? Like, how do I make an itinerary? Like all those things. I'm
Yeah.
always really working on finding every possible way to remove the obstacles, the friction, the unknown, and the fear that anyone has around travel, so you can get that out of the way and show up and have a good time. So if you do want to spend time with me, I would say Facebook page is the number one place, Instagram as well. And those are the two main ones where I get to interact.
Awesome.
But the big one is out on the road. So
on the road, definitely.
Yeah.
Love it. So I want to ask you I've got a lot of questions for you, but I got a fun one I want to ask you because you've done so many cool things. And I was reading even about the tornado thing. Like I was going through your stuff and I'm like, I love it. Like all these things that you've done, you're like, I'm just going to get out and I'm going to figure out a way to do this. So I want to ask you kind of a mindset question because you've done acting and you're doing this blog thing and you've traveled, you've done all these things. I want to know like what this looks like for you, like what your mindset is on this, when you're tackling these kinds of things, because these are like things that, I get it because I'm kind of crazy like that, like in the sense that like, if I want to do something, I'm just going to do it. And like, I'm going to assume the risk, but a lot of people don't really have that, quite that they have it, but they don't quite, are not quite as adventurous or I say they're a little more risk adverse. Right. So I'd love to know just what your thought process is on that.
It's like, I think you were saying it earlier about it being sort of a muscle, but it's funny because at one point, I was in how we all are these days, we're all in coaching groups online and we have our weekly meetings. And at one point during the pandemic, somebody was like, well, why don't you just talk about your life? And it was so weird for me because at first I thought, well, I'm super unrelatable. Like I'm an actor and I just travel around the world and like, who can relate to that? And then I thought it took me about 6 months to come around to why is that unrelatable? Why? Like, why do you think that? I think it's because being born in a small town in Missouri, and honestly, my family, my upbringing was very small. Everybody, like you mentioned at the beginning, everyone just said, don't make waves, don't do, just maybe, clean office buildings or sell insurance. And there's nothing, these are all things we definitely need. They're essential. And there are people that are so much better at it than me. I just knew that's not what I aligned with. And so it was like incremental steps to this really crazy big idea of what I thought my life would be. And each time I would take a step, sometimes you fail and you learn, and sometimes you do it and it works out. And then you have a little bit more confidence. Like, okay, could I do this? And then you just keep going and you just keep going. And that's truly, I always say, and my husband and I talk about this because we recently bought a house in Portugal, which also seems absolutely crazy. And we kind of together have created this mindset of, there's very little you can do, obviously without exception. I know everyone's going to come with a little snarky answer in their back of their brain because it's fun, but there's very little you can do that isn't reversible. There is it's all just trial and error. So, we bought a house in Portugal. That was a big investment. It might be a really dumb move. We don't know, but we're collecting data. We're loving it right now. A voice told us both to go do it. So we just jump. And then if it turns out to be a bad idea, we sell it, So I just feel like you have to, every time you hear that inner knowing that says, hey, you want to speak on stages. And then you think, no, just do it. You're probably going to be terrible the first time, right. But or you're going to be like, oh my God, that was so much better than I imagined. Like I even tried stand-up comedy. It was hard, but you know what? If I did it again and I did it again and I did it again, guess what? You get better and better and better. And then you don't even think about it. You're not even scared. You're like, what's next? You up level. It's just amazing. Life is so fun when you see what you're made of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you hit on something there, though. And I think that gets back to what I talk about all the time is that you assume the risk when you do things and you know they're going to be risk. Like I always tell people, I think the difference between people that try things and will go and do them and versus people that don't, the people that do say, I already know there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a roadblock. There's going to be some kind of a challenge. My job is now just to figure out how I navigate around it. Like I just, and it's funny because, I was talking about, the different personalities and stuff. And you probably heard like the DISC and all that. I talk about that. I used to train on it all the time. And, like I would get my people over here that are just like, they're guns a-blazing. Like I'm the guns a-blazing. I'm like, let's go do it. Like, I'm just going to cross that bridge when I get there and I'll figure it out when I get there. And then I get the people that are like, my high C's who are just risk averse, very cautious. And like, we got to have the facts. And I'm like, you're not going to have all the facts. You just got to go sometimes. And you can't stick your toe in, you got to stick your whole foot in,
Yeah, because you know what? Nothing happens till you take action.
Exactly.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I say my entire family is still sitting on the sidelines. Yeah. They're like, I love them, but and my mom often jokes, she's like, I don't know whose kid you are. and I look back and I go, I don't know either. But I just take some action and
right.
I think it's really how you look at it too. If you fail, is it a spiral? I mean, I'm not saying I don't spiral, but right. is it a spiral that just absolutely is something you can't return from? I think we've all been humans long enough to watch those examples and see how people fail on really astounding levels and then the comeback and they're even twice as successful. And I think we love those stories, but we can do that too.
Right. Well, and I will say, I think you are very relatable. And I get it. I know, when I'm listening to you and I'm like, this is why I do this show, and I get so many awesome people on here. And the whole reason that I do it is really a couple of reasons. One, I like to show that there are cool people in the world doing awesome things. And it's to show that they are everyday average human beings that are just making different decisions. They just chose to do something different to change their lives. And I do believe, we're always a decision away from something great. It's really just a matter of the choice that we make and whether, like you're saying, you're going to sit on the sidelines or get off and do something, So I'm with you. I mean, I think you are relatable. And that's the reason that we do this is to show that we're all humans.
And that's something that I came to. I'm like, wait a minute, if being a girl from a small town with no contacts, no money, no supportive family can get here. Like, if I'm not relatable, then I just don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, I would hope that's such a, I hope to be an example for others that this world is exciting and just you can do stuff. If I can do it, which is what everybody's, if I can do it, you can do it, which means we all can do it.
Right. I agree with you. Well, this has been awesome. I have a couple fun questions I want to ask you. I feel like I could talk to you for a long time. I love your energy and your personality. Like it's all like, I love it. That's why I love doing this show. I get to have fun conversations with people. It's like the highlight of my day is to jump on a podcast and have fun conversations,
So much. And there's, what I have to say too, like I'm having so much fun with you. And I've been talking to some other people recently and there'll be mornings where I'm like, oh no, I can't do it. And then the minute I get on, I'm like, God, I feel good the rest of the day. Because you know what? Humans are supposed to be connected. We always feel better when we are in that room with other people that are happy and excited. It brings you up.
I agree with you. And there's nothing, and you're right. And there's nothing, I love passionate people that are passionate about what they're doing. That's why I love this, because if we find people that are doing cool things and they enjoy what they're doing, that's what it's all about, right? Like whatever Absolutely. It is, I don't care if you want to deliver, if you picking up trash is your thing and you're excited about it, go do it. We
need that. We need that. Exactly. I mean, it's all essential. Just do what is exciting to you.
Exactly. I think you're a testament to that you're enjoying what you're doing. And I think that's awesome. I mean, that's what it's about. It's nothing like being in a boring, job that you hate and being miserable your whole life. I mean, it's just, you don't want to go down that path, if you can figure out what you enjoy doing, definitely on that trip. So I want to ask you some fun questions. Not that none of these have been fun, but I want to ask you some fun ones because this is my favorite part of the show.
Start having fun.
My favorite part of the show. Okay. So in all the countries that you have been to, I want to know, like, what's your favorite cuisine? Which one's been the favorite?
And because most people are like, what's your favorite country? I'm like, I have like 15. So,
Yeah.
but cuisine and, there's always the ones that are like, I am a pasta with cream sauce addict. So I will never not say Italian. But I have to say, in terms of discovery, Georgian, country of Georgia is actually Georgian food is why I went to Georgia. So I was living in Russia and I would go to Georgian restaurants and their food is so phenomenal that I remember sitting in a Georgian restaurant in St. Petersburg, Russia, and thinking to myself, I'm going to go to this country and I'm going to eat their food. And
fun.
I went there and the food in the country is even better than any Georgian restaurant that you will go to because the ingredients there are fresh. It's a very agrarian society. So, and it's kind of on the same, I always mix these up, the same longitude, the same, this one, the horizontal one.
You're fine with me.
Yes. Yeah. But it's, it's kind of like Italy in terms of like there's sunshine and there's just good soil. So their vegetables, when you have that amazing tomato, like their vegetables are just like, there's a concentration of deliciousness in every vegetable, the cheeses, the cheesy bread that's bubbling, I think people are becoming more and more aware of khachapuri. So I don't know if you wanted one word, but when we talk about food, forget it. I'm just going to start describing flavors and textures.
Well, I like food, so
everyone's going to be hungry by the end.
Yeah, that's always a fun question to ask. And because you've traveled, so I can ask that question. Not everybody has been quite, worldly in their food flavors and stuff. So I think that's kind of a fun one, So, all right. So having come from a small town, this is going to be a fun question. I want to know maybe a first concert that you ever attended.
I think the first concert. And also, mind you, I was kind of raised in a very restrictive, fundamental environment. So it was frowned upon to go to concerts. Yeah. But I did get out and I got to go to U2 at Busch Stadium. So fun.
I know. Well, they're a good band. So that's fun. I like U2. I still have an album.
Quite a spectacle.
Yeah. I still have the original Joshua Tree album that I got when I was like when I was young. I still have it. So I have a few albums that I've kept from back in I'm a 70s kid. So back in the 80s, I still have some. And I bought myself one of those little record players. So every now and then I can be cool and put
we have one too. My husband loves vinyl. So we have a record player too. And for Christmas one year, he actually went on, I want to say eBay, and he bought out like an 80s, 90s, like 70s, 80s, and 90s, like 45, a DJ, like a wedding DJ, their entire 45 collection. And so we'll just go through, we have like 300 45s and then stuff that my mom saved from when I was a kid. And we will just go through and have like a 45 night. It's all like fun blast from the past. So I'm with you. The vinyl is actually, that's a fun activity as opposed to just, watching TV because everyone starts singing, dancing.
Yes. Well, it's funny even talking about that because I was having a conversation with somebody recently and I'm like, I was thinking about like when we were kids and we would have to wait for you had to buy an album to get a song or you'd have to wait on the radio so that you could push your tape recorder to actually get the song recorded. And now our kids are just like, oh, let me just jump on and download that song. It's so weird.
The plight of the Gen Xer, like kids today will never understand.
I know.
It gave us patience though and resourcefulness and how do we get that song? We put our tape recorder up to
that. And that's why you're able to do all these things that you do because you learn how to be resourceful and industrious. See, that's what I say. We figured things out. And so we're not afraid to take risk. We might be a little crazy at times. It's so great. So fun. All right. I had one more and then I lost my train. I got so excited talking. I totally lost what I was going to ask you now. Now it's not gone. Yeah, maybe come back to me. Let me ask you this. So if you mentioned on your Facebook, do you have anywhere else? Like if our listeners want to follow you, we're going to tell them to go to Facebook and Instagram. You have a webpage you want me to send them to or just
Yes. I have a couple things.
Okay.
One, I have a free gift for your audience
Yes.
because over the decades of traveling, I have, and for my audience on my blog, over the years, I've made different checklists, workbooks, things to make it easier for people to travel. And so honestly, just a month ago, I sat myself down and put it into one bundle, and it's just the Clever Traveler Checklist bundle. And
Okay.
it has even made a list so you guys know what it is. And so I have a budget workbook, and I even put a little loom on there so I could show you could see how I do it. But to
Awesome.
set yourself up with a budget beforehand so you know that you can just show up, you already know where the hotels and everything's paid for and what money you can spend on lots of food and souvenirs and all that stuff. So I have a budget workbook. I have the ultimate vacation countdown checklist, which goes from you can start a year to 6 months before you're going somewhere, and make sure from did I turn the stove off to did I pay these bills, did I get my passport renewed, and I break it down by month sections just so again, these little things you don't want to think about it. I've already got the checklist. It's already in one spot. And I have several different packing lists, from winter packing lists to spring and summer. I have 2 weeks in a carry-on if that's something that you want to do. I also have what to pack in your wellness kit. I have gotten sick abroad more times than I care to admit. And so what do I bring to keep myself healthy or to get myself healthy sooner than later? And then also how to be comfortable on a long haul flight. I have been on like sometimes 6 a year, and business class is always the first choice, but that's not just traveling is the goal. And how do you get comfortable on these tiny planes, or they're big planes but tiny seats, whatever. So I've got all of that, put it in one little bundle for you. You can easily download it, and that and I'm sure you'll have the link for people to just click, but if you're listening right now, it's link.cleverdever, and that's CLEVERDEVER.travel, and then /checklist bundle.
Okay.
And you can just go there, click it, and you'll be able to just easily get that download of all of those. I think it's like 7 different kinds of checklists and things to help you plan your trip. The second thing is if you want to travel with me, and again, this is why I started doing this, because I just love spending time with people. And as we talked about, I personally curate every single tour. I have women, professional tour guides in each country. My one in Poland is an anthropologist. She's been a NATJA guide. My guide in Slovenia and Croatia she's had her own business for 28 years. She's been a guide for Rick Steves for the last 25. She still is, and she's my guide. And in Georgia, I have amazing guides. But together, we will go for weeks on end and find the exact right people, personal friends, chefs, artisans, off the beaten path. So maybe if you've been someplace, but you've never been like this, because we are really going to take you to places where you come away and you feel like you've made friends in the country and with your trip mates. So that's another thing. If you want to go somewhere spectacular, I am going to Slovenia in August. I have a few more spots left on that tour, and I've done all the work for you. All you have to do is show up, and then Tina and I will take care of you. You'll have Michelin star food. You will see some of the most pristine nature you have ever seen, and the people of Slovenia are so fun. So I highly recommend that. I actually am not going to offer it next year, so get in on it this year. And you can look at the information about that. It's go.cleverdever.travel/Slovenia 2023. And Slovenia is spelled SLOVENIA and 2023. And if you want to go on that one, I'm actually also offering everyone listening a discount code, which is Dreamers150. So come along with me. I swear I'm the best time on the road. Also have your back.
You
always
so
have
fun.
Your back. We've had guests that hadn't. I have this woman who came with me to Poland last year from Missouri, and she hadn't been abroad by herself. And she actually started, we have a WhatsApp prior, and she was like, I'm at the airport and I'm in Germany and this is very new to me. And what do I do? And my guide was immediately on the phone with her, walked her through it, because airports in Europe are a little different, the way they're set up and going to the gates, got her there. And now she's booked every tour I've had since. She's on all of them, a couple times a year now. It's just, we have your back. We take care of you. We make sure you are safe and sound and having the best time. So come along with me and use that discount, and I'll see you this summer in Slovenia.
I love it. Well, we'll make sure, Juliana, when this goes out, we'll get all those links in there so they know exactly where to check all this out. Yeah, I'm all excited just listening to it. I'm like, it's good.
It is good. It's good stuff. And I'm also actually planning a trip to Croatia for next year. And I have, if that's something that anyone that's listening, if Croatia has always been on your bucket list, I'm looking at doing 2 different tours, and I'm going to have a live Zoom about it at the end of the month. I can give you the link to that as well. If that's something, just to sit in and listen and listen to what we're curating, what we're putting together, because there's just 2 different options. So I've always got stuff going. I'm always excited to share what I've learned. I love being the advanced team. Like, I'm on reconnaissance for y'all. I'm going out there. I'm trying all the food. I'm trying all the hotels. I'm like, nope, yes, nope, yes. So, and then once you travel with me, I kind of have you in mind too. Because I have like one guest who loves horses, and I'm like, okay, we could visit these Lipizzaner or stallions. I'm always there, kind of planning with you in mind, so that your trip is just like one of the most meaningful, best experiences you've ever had.
Yeah, sounds like, I like it. It sounds great. It's fun. And I can, like I said, I can tell you're passionate about it, and I think that makes a difference. So, right. You gotta love what you're doing. It's no fun if you don't.
Yeah. No, it's not. Why do it then? If it's not fun, don't do it.
Exactly. But so many people do. And I love that you're on here talking about that. I think it's so great. So this has been so much fun. Like I said, I could keep you on here forever, but I know you got things to do and more you got trips to plan and all that good stuff. Exactly. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here, giving us your time and being real and sharing with our audience, because I know they're gonna love this. And we'll make sure, like I said, all these links get on there so they can connect with you, and the checklist, all of that. I think it's great. We'll make sure that they know where to go to get all that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good stuff. And of course, I do want to say to our audience, if you enjoy our show, go check us out on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a rating on Apple, or check us out on YouTube. You can hit that subscribe button so we can continue sharing all these fun, incredible stories, right? Talking to all these awesome people. And with that, we want to leave you with a final parting thought. In order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.